Hi everybody, Peyton Ramey here. I want to talk to you briefly about something we run into in trucking, but it's actually more common in the medical field. It's called VIP syndrome. Now what that means is the status of a person can actually affect the decisions made about that person's medical care. So for instance, if you had a CEO of a large company that donated a lot of money to a hospital, the hospital administration might actually value that person's well-being, unfortunately, more than the other people that are in the hospital. So what they're doing is they're altering the medical care that they would have otherwise gotten from a normal patient. Now, the procedures that are laid out by the nurses and the doctors and the surgeons have been tried and true, and they're there for a reason, because they work. Now, if you throw a wrench into that system and say, this person, the very important person, needs an extra level of care, what you're doing is you're disrupting their daily plans. You're disrupting their schedule, their routines, what works. Maybe it might even lead to different medications being prescribed, which can ultimately be a very bad thing for the patient. So translating that over to trucking, we actually see it very, very commonly. What we'll have is we'll have a customer of ours who has a shipper they perceive to be very important, whether it's a family friend of the owner or the CEO of an account they have, maybe a major bank or a retailer that they're moving. They want the best for that person and the best experience, which is totally understandable. What they don't realize sometimes is that when it comes to shipping someone's car, their household goods, furniture, art, whatever, you have vendors that you trust and work with on a regular basis. And you know that they have a standard operating procedure that they've set up over years and years of experience. And it's tailored, it's already built for the best possible outcome for each individual customer. Because the last thing we want is to have anybody upset about the process. So we figured out the best way to do things. When you tell a vendor, a car shipper, that a person needs an extra level of service, what you might actually be doing is making the experience worse for that person, because one, you're propping up and not setting expectations in reality to the actual person that we're moving, and then two, you're creating extra work in the pipeline. And logistics is all about efficiency. So if my customer service representative now, instead of making just one phone call to the driver to find out where he is, what his location is, and what his ETA is, now she's calling that driver every 20, 30 minutes, an hour, 8 times during a day. Well, the driver's gonna think that we're annoying. He's gonna know that the person's car he's picking up is causing him a headache, and he might have a bad attitude when he shows up. So what you've done by being overly involved in the process and bending the rules and wanting to elevate the status of this person is you've created a situation where the driver potentially thinks this particular shipper is a problem and just gives him a hard time or doesn't like him from the get-go or might even be rude, and that's the last thing we want. So trusting your vendors, having good vendors, knowing that they have your best interest in heart and your shipper's best interest in heart, and that they know what they're doing. You work with them, you have worked with them, you vetted them. I assume all of your vendors are doing the very best they can. Let vendors do what they do, and you do what you do. Book moves, trust the process, and everything will go much, much smoother, I promise you.